Hi, I'm Rick DeGear, your host for this edition of the RANS video newsletter, an inside look at what's happening at RANS. Topics for this edition include our open house activities, our S7C tail cone modifications, and the making of an engine cowling for the S16. All that and more right after this. Just released your cure for cabin fever. Splash and dash with us. Order your copy of the new float plane video, Splash and Dash. 40 minutes of water action to melt your winter blues. $15 at RANS factories everywhere. Randy, recently you had a gathering of eagles, as we call it. It was an open house, if you will, for 1997 at the Hayes Airport, and given the opportunity for the folks to come by and see your product line for 1998 as well as your factory. Tell us a little bit about what went on.
Well, we had a good party. We had excellent weather. I mean, that's the first thing you worry about when you have an aviation event is the weather. And great stuff happened. We had several folks fly in, had about a dozen aircraft show up, about 500 people.
Quite an accomplishment. How far away did they come from?
The furthest was about as far away as you can get if you're living in Texas somewhere.
Okay. Almost speaking Hispanic.
Almost in another country, really. Yeah.
I understand. How many people showed up at the event this year?
Well, we had about 500 customers and prospective customers, some local authorities and officials, and we're trying to show off the new factory. We had such a good time at it, we're going to do it every year. We had quite the itinerary. We had flying pretty much all the day. On Saturday we had, see, what else do? We dedicated a library. Basically, if you knew him, you probably knew that he was always after knowledge. So we thought it'd be real appropriate to dedicate his room to serve as a place where our employees and their friends, I guess, could come. We had a good lunch and a good supper. We even had a live band and dancing, and a mysterious aircraft buzzed our shop right at sundown.
Mysterious?
Well, we sure weren't familiar with the airplane, and it was quite impressive.
Wasn't a stealth by any chance?
Almost. It was a F-18. His afterburners darn near lit our runway on fire too.
Came all the way out to Hayes, Kansas to put on a demonstration.
Yeah, somehow he got wise to it and figured where there's airplane people, there should be a jet. Actually, you're watching Richard Harrigold. He's what they call a smoking Okie from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he has an extremely boss smoke system on his aircraft. And
briefly,
he's been known, let me go on with this, he's been known to bring a field down to IFR conditions with that. We had a contest for the funniest flying story. The Smoke and Okie won that hands down, so we're putting the warning out for guys to start practicing now for next year's so they can upseat them. You know, because if we don't band together and really try to get funny, Richard's going to win it every year, and we can't have that.
I don't like that. I'm going, man, you know, because I'm thinking when I choked on those donuts, I was doing this or something, and like he saw me flying crazy, he was making fun of me, so I get on the radio and I go, Gordon, that ain't funny, man. What are you doing?
Is this going to be an annual event?
Yes, we had a great time with it. I think everybody got something out of it. We advertised everybody walks away with a prize. We did that. We had a lottery. Everybody won something. We hope to get more fly-in participation next year. And as we see, we gave a lot of demos with the 16. That aircraft should allow our people to be more transient because it's faster and they can come from greater distance. Being in the middle, being in Kansas in the middle, we're far from everything, but if you're the optimist, you're close to everything. So,
well put. Do you have any idea when the event will be held next year?
I think September is good for us.
Okay.
I think it's after all the major air shows, and we can settle down and get into it.
Sounds like a heck of an opportunity for you folks out there who would like to see the complete product line, as well as possibly go for a spin, if you will, in one of the RANS 9 aircraft.
Man, this puppy goes 80 miles an hour in a heartbeat. Man, it's neat. It's like a little race plane.
You know, from the looks of the video, we're all having a great time, but I can also see there was also a serious side to this fly-in event. You had a scheduled question and answer session, or a tech talk as you would call it.
Yeah, we felt like at our last flyings that people kind of been asking for that. They wanted a formal time we could sit down and get down to the brass tacks on things, and it was very helpful. We enjoyed it immensely. We got to cover a lot of ground very quickly. With you know, being outnumbered, it's always interesting, the reaction on that. But we had a panel, assembled a panel of our people, our technical advisor, our painting people, our weld shop supervisor, myself. We sat down and had about 30 people basically ask us every question under the sun, and I think we all walked away learning a lot.
Great opportunity for you to get all of the input that is so vital as you move forward, finding out what the customers like and possibly dislike about the product.
Yeah, it's you know, the customer really builds the plane. Not only does he build it in his garage, but he influences our design decisions and choices, and they help the plane evolve that way. So it becomes their product just as much as ours.
So it's been years in the making. It's taken thousands of hours of flying. It's been asked for. It's been begged for. And now it's coming. Soon, the new RANS aircraft video.
Like most new planes, I let somebody else buy one first, and then let them fly it for a year or two, and then make my decision. And Richard Harrigill bought one and flew the devil out of it, and it flew good, went fast, land short. So I decided that's what I wanted to get.
We're Bill and Jimmy Rothrock from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've had this RANS since Valentine's Day, 1997. And we have put about 350 hours on it since we've owned it, and we really enjoy it.
It's a lot of fun. It's Mom's Valentine's Day present.
Mom's Valentine's present. We're breaking it in for her. We
wouldn't want her to have an engine out in it.
No, we've been taking lessons in it. In fact, I believe that I am the first person to ever get their pilot's license and do their check ride in a RANS. And Jim is just around the corner from doing his. How many hours do you have now?
I think I got about 62.
62? Great. Since I've owned the plane, I've been to California in it, and I left for Oshkosh 2 days after I had my check ride. And we've now flown up to the RANS for their big open house. We've had a great time.
Good afternoon, and we're out on the Kansas plains, out on the Kansas prairie, I guess I should say, speaking with Robert Lanning. Good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon.
Tell us about this beautiful airplane that's in back of us here.
This is a RANS S14 Air Rail.
It's a beautiful airplane. It's red over yellow. And how long have you owned this particular aircraft?
I've had this plane about a year.
And maybe you could tell us a little bit about it. Obviously, you've been flying aircraft for quite some time, and we'd like to know a little bit about the performance aspects.
Well, it's a real sporty aircraft. The climb out is fantastic, over 1,000 feet a minute. Cruise is roughly 85 miles per hour.
So what you're telling me is this is a relatively high performance aircraft when you compare it to, say, a Cessna 150 as an example.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and we're talking out here again on the Kansas prairie, and it's a little bit on the cool side. Do you fly this particular bird in the winter?
Oh yes, with the full enclosure, with the sun beating down on the full enclosure, it stays pretty nice inside.
In talking with you earlier, you've done some model flying in a previous life. You've done some quarter scale flying, and let's talk a little bit about the correlation between flying a model and flying an actual aircraft. What's the differences?
Well, there's a huge difference. I would guess flying a real aircraft is probably easier. Although I enjoyed the building of the aircraft.
Okay.
That's what kind of brought me to the kit airplane.
Robert, it's my understanding this is not your first RANS products. You owned a previous airplane, correct?
That is correct.
And that was a?
That was a RANS S6.
And this is obviously a Model 14. Real quickly, the differences between the two models and why you chose to step into this particular aircraft over the S6.
One of the obvious differences is the fact that this is a single-place aircraft. I found myself flying by myself most of the time anyway, so it just made sense.
Obviously, you have a real love of flying, and roughly how many hours a year do you put on this bird?
Oh, I don't normally keep track of the hours that I fly, which I do keep track, but I try to fly whenever the weather permitting. I fly fairly often.
And in Kansas, is that a problem for you?
No, no, you get adjusted to flying in the wind.
Bob, when you're not flying this beautiful aircraft, obviously you have a career of some sort. Tell us about it very briefly.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I do something else I enjoy quite a bit. I work at the RANS company.
Well, what do you do for the RANS folks?
I'm in production management.
And what does that mean?
I supervise the assembly department.
Bob, when we speak of aviation, we think of safety, and along with that goes quality. Tell us a little bit about the quality aspects that goes into every RANS product.
Yes, we get the kits in assembly just as if the customer received a kit. It gives us a chance to check the manual, to make sure all the parts are there, and to maintain the quality that RANS is known for.
Bob, we want to thank you very, very much for coming out here into the cool Kansas breeze and chatting with us a little bit about the S-14 and the fact that you're an employee with RANS. Again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay. This is the Courier tail, and we're going to show you how it's been changed.
If you're interested in more information on RANS products, we have other videos available, including the factory tour with all of our aircraft, the Super 6, the S-12 seaplane, our clear coat process, and the S-14 assembly.
You know, Randy, I understand that we're doing some modifications to the S-7C for 1998. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the certification requires the airplane to have more what a general aviation pilot expects out of the aircraft. And I'm sure you've flown tail draggers.
As a matter of fact, I own one.
You flew in today with one.
That's precisely.
And you notice that some people, when they get in a tail dragger, forget what their feet are for, which is not good news.
They remember quite readily.
Yeah.
For the tail dragger pilots out there, they know exactly what we're talking about.
But what happened, what we've noticed on the certification, or on the certification prototype, that people have been having a hard time keeping the ball centered. And this is probably due to the fact that the nose is deeper. We added more vertical area to the front. So we've added a good dash of area to the back on the vertical fin, and also put some rudder overhang just to make the aircraft coordinate better in flight.
So in essence, now we have a nice, gentle roll rate where we have yaw as well as roll, and it's a better coordinated effort, and it's easier for the pilot to fly in a coordinated mode.
Right, it takes some of the brain effect out of it, or it becomes a no-brainer to fly, more or less. And also, like, we're going to go ahead and put it in the 98 kits as well. It'll be featured on the S7 for the certified aircraft, but we like it so much we're just going to put it in the 98 kits as well, even though the 98 kit doesn't have the extra vertical volume to the nose of the aircraft. The noses of the aircraft are significantly different. Between the kit and the certified, there's more floorboard, or more legroom that's dropped down lower, so you have about 2.5 inches more legroom. So that caused to have some vertical area ahead of the center of gravity, so we hoped that the tail volume was sufficient prior to that modification, but we found out that it really needed a little bit more. We found after flying the 16 it had a problem with being too light in the nose, so it was a little light on pitch. Although we've been successful now, we've added a spring and a tab which mimics a longitudinal stability real well, and it's almost acceptable. To enhance it further, we're going to go ahead and put a larger engine cowling to move the engine forward, and also that can accommodate Continental 240 engine.
We're talking a conventional airplane engine, a
Right.
Continental?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Continental's come out with a new engine, the IO 240B, which is kind of a pumped up 0200 with fuel injection, and it's getting to be a pretty popular engine. It's reasonably priced, 130 some horse. The interesting thing is we had to make a new cowling, a new top deck to the aircraft. You've seen photos of the plane and seen the plane itself.
It's a beautiful airplane.
Yeah. And we were real concerned about changing the lines of the plane, so we were very careful how we did this. And we've adopted the cowling kind of with the round holes, the holy cow look that Lopresti made popular. That was public domain information anyway from a university. We had to start from scratch, on that cowling.
I'm kind of curious, how do you make a cowling from scratch?
Well, the way we've done it, and we've done it about everywhere, but the way we feel works the best is just take the engine, make the mount it to the master plug or the aircraft itself. Bag the engine very well in heavy plastic, and then take a foam such as an isocyanate foam that doesn't dissolve in resin, and start building a block around the engine itself. And then after you have enough of a block there that you know will be past the lines you want to carve, then you go in and start carving. It just involves a lot of skill, a lot of elbow grease, and a lot of good eye. A person has to be careful and watch his line when he's doing it to flow it in. And you can see from what we've done on it, it flows in real nice.
Randy, while we're on the subject of engines, it's my understanding that you guys had intended on canceling the Rotax 912 engine. Is that true?
It was true. When we first built the 16, we were impressed with its performance, relatively speaking. For an 80-horse engine, the airplane did well, but we weren't impressed so much with its longitudinal stability. And so we went in and we added a spring and a tab to help induce longitudinal stability. And we've got it back to the point now to where it feels conventional enough and stable enough that a person can fly this aircraft, the average person, and feel at ease with it. Before, it was very light in pitch. And by adding a spring, we have a spring that pulls a down force. So when the aircraft slows down, you start feeling stick pressure, which would be the same thing as the nose getting heavy. And then as you speed up, the tab on the elevator overcomes the spring, so the stick pressure gets less. And this helps us overcome what we need to do ultimately, which is move the engine further forward, which we will do in the cowling as we discussed. Have the opportunity at least to move it about 4 inches forward.
So it's my understanding then that you folks are going to continue to offer the Rotax 912 and also offer the Continental, so you'll have two options for this particular aircraft.
Right, it'll be a 2-engine program, if not more. Our outcry from the public in Europe was, hey, let's not dump the 912. We want this aircraft because it's efficient. They simply can't live with the big engines in Europe. They're too noisy, too consumptive on fuel. And those 2 engines and more, I say, we've actually designed the aircraft to go up to a 400-pound engine. So we'll probably see some hot rods out there with like 180, 210 horsepower. So it'll be doing 200 and streaking.
Look out, Oshkosh, here we come. This is the Vivo, the full suspension bike for '98.
Now's your chance to get a RANS t-shirt, a RANS hat, or even both. T-shirts are only $12, hats are only $10. So before you go to the next air show, be cool. Wear a RANS t-shirt or a RANS hat. Give us a call or send your order to the factory today. Get a RANS and be cool.
We are talking today with John Schlitter, who's Director of Recumbent Operations here at the RANS Corporation. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Rick.
Tell us a little bit about this particular new model, and it is a new model for 1998. It's called the RANS
Vivo. What's the unique thing about this new bike for us, out of all our recumbent models, this is a full suspension recumbent, which means it has suspension for both of the wheels. The front wheel has its own independent front shock, and the rear end has an air shock.
One of the other things you were telling me a little bit earlier is the front braking system is unique for 1998.
Yes, it's a Magura hydraulic brake system. It's used on the front and the rear, and we've been using them on the more innovative models of our bikes, and it provides unlimited braking power, basically, for a bike of this type.
The whole concept behind this particular type of bicycle is comfort. Let's talk a little bit about the comfort of this particular model.
With this type of a bike, for one thing, a recumbent bicycle is so much more comfortable than anything in a traditional type bicycle. But when you add in a feature like full suspension, you have a ride that's unbelievable and is just so comfortable. There's no streets in this town that I can ride down and not be comfortable on. It doesn't limit your access to the roads. You have a totally smooth ride.
John, you've been refining this particular unit for a number of years, and you have some very innovative new design features for 1998. In fact, they're so unique that it has won an award. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, the Vivo for 98 has been, I just got off the phone a few minutes ago with an editor of the Recumbent Cyclist News. It's a recumbent-only enthusiast type magazine, and the Vivo was voted the best short wheelbase recumbent for 1998.
And this is a national award, correct?
Yes, this is a national award through his magazine.
For you folks out there who have never tried a recumbent bicycle, this is a very, very unique design. But the whole idea behind that design is comfort. And like most of you who have a 10-speed or possibly a mountain bike, chances are it's been hanging up in your garage for a number of years. Once you try a recumbent bicycle, specifically the RANS bicycle, you'll find it has such comfort that you'll love to ride it, and that's why you bought a bicycle. This unique concept in two-wheel transportation is obviously catching on, and I understand your factory is running at full speed. Is that right?
That is correct. We are backlogged, close to 1,000 bikes at this moment, and basically 98 looks like it's going to be a sold-out year. And we just are pushing hard to meet the demand, and hopefully we'll be able to get enough produced for everyone that wants one.
Sounds to me like if I want a RANS bike, a recumbent bike, that I need to get in my order early.
Yes, you would need to get your order in, but don't worry. A lot of the shops have put in big preseason orders to have product throughout the spring, and that way you will have a chance to get one.
John, thank you very much for taking time in your busy schedule to explain the refinements and this beautiful bike for 1998.
It's been a pleasure.
Robert, we've talked of specifications, the rate of climb, the speed, the horsepower and such, but let's talk for just a moment about the thrill of flying, the enjoyment of flying. This is why we bought it. We didn't buy it for specifications. We bought it for what reason?
I bought it basically for the challenge of building, the challenge of learning to fly, and the enjoyment of flying.
How often do you fly? Roughly how many hours a year do you put on this bird?
Oh, I fly roughly about 2 times a year.
Shit.